good morning, and welcome to rainy Portland. This episode of Black Beat Podcast, I got the podcast posse in here today. And we're going to be talking about some strange stuff today, and that is health. Now, that's strange. Don't you think that's strange? How do we be healthy in an unhealthy condition and in an unhealthy environment? And that's going to be a real interesting tone to set for this winter, because it's raining and it's snowing and it's that time of the year where everybody is depressed. I don't know about you, I'm depressed. The minute the sun goes away, I get depressed. So maybe I just need to go chase the sun. Hey, look here, to my left I have Jarrell, the extraordinary Jarrell, who is, does his thing kind of silently. He moves through our experience rather stealth-like, but he's got every once in a while he got something he need to say. And then on his side, he's got the extraordinary Dr. Ron. And here's his new name at the mic, Dr. Ron.
Yes,
Welcome to the house there, Dr. Ron. It's always welcome having you sitting at the table with us. And to my right, I have the illustrious, the mischievous, the hard-headed, hard-hitting Miss Fawn Averson over here to my right. And I just don't know to tell y'all enough about her, but welcome, therefore, to this episode of the podcast where she is really responsible for trying to get us to talk about the health and wellness of our community. So, with that said, it's Christmas time in the city, and I know all of y'all are out there a little bit crazy. I don't know for most of y'all, I don't know about y'all, I get kind of crazy around these kinds of days. As soon as the turkeys start clucking, boy, my feelings start trumping, doing something crazy. I don't know, and it might be the dangerous three, right? The dangerous three is family, money, holidays, and for me, football. And I don't know how y'all ever think, but boy, the minute they start taking those snaps in July, something comes over me, and I get different. So let's talk about the differences, y'all. What happened in the season changes for y'all? I mean, how y'all feel about these holidays and health and all this wellness and that kind of stuff? Talk to me a little bit, Bossy. What y'all thinking about this topic for us today?
The main thing I'm thinking about is definitely, as of late, it's been food. What am I putting in my body and stuff like that has been a big thing.
It ain't been a big thing, you say?
It has been a big thing, more now than ever. Like when I was at college, I had a lot more control of what I was eating. I cooked a lot more and stuff like that. And since I've been home, my eating habits have definitely changed a lot.
But you don't cook at home, man. But you cook at the house.
I do at times, but when I would cook, I used to do like meal prep. So I would cook and then I would have, another couple extra meals. But now when I cook, the food just all gone because everybody eating it. So it's a lot harder to meal prep and stuff. And I'm not trying to cook every day, if I'm going to be honest.
Well, how you going to eat if you don't cook every day? What, you going to go out and spend some money to own food or something? What?
Unfortunately, that's what I've been doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good look. You know what I mean? Because if you're going to stay healthy, you ain't going to be able to do it at McDonald's. So what do you think, Fawn? How do you stay healthy around these times?
Unfortunately, I probably am like, a good chunk of the national population. And I don't. Like, after when Thanksgiving starts to come around, sugar, right? I think I triple my intake in sugar with Snoops, candy. Chocolate's a big one. Of course, then baking, right? Everybody starts to bake, and desserts. I was reading earlier that 90% of people have admitted that they've had more than one dessert in a day. And I'm like definitely one of those people.
I'm guilty of that. I think I eat about 4 or 5 desserts in a day.
Yeah. And, it used to be like we're just supposed to have maybe 1 a week, maybe, right? Now we're having 2 a day, 3 a day. It's like getting that protein and those green leafy greens in between these sugars, and then sugar takes away your kind of appetite temporarily, but you're never satisfied. So it's hard. And then, the rain comes and the cold comes, and I'm a big walker, but then, your food gets out of step, and then your exercise gets out of step. And then pretty soon you're just like, well, I guess I'm just in the holiday mode, and,
So then
I'll
you just
write
walking with
myself
sugar,
later.
huh?
Yeah.
You just be hanging out with sugar.
So,
You in the sugar
it's
fit.
tough for me, sugar.
Yeah.
Sugar.
Well, a lot of people don't realize that not only sugar, but alcohol and all of that is the same stuff, And the holidays, you got all these holiday parties and this and that, So drinking becomes another big part of the consumption of unhealthy around the holidays, and so sugar is a big one, at least for most of us. I don't know about y'all, but my family historically, sugar has plagued up my family. If it's not diabetes, it's something else related to it, but salt too, so y'all just don't think just one aspect of it. Sugar is one aspect of it, but then there's salt and then there's fats and there's all these kinds of things. So I don't know, Dr. Ron, I don't know what you're thinking about all these things, but I know you come from a different climate and a different place where y'all ate natural things. How does sugar and all these things that are affecting the American people in your mind? I mean, when you look back at it, I know you're still American, but but you come from a different background where natural healthy things were just a natural part of your natural healthy diet. Talk to us a little bit about it.
So for me, it starts with Thanksgiving. Every time in America, when that time comes around, I think about people saying at the end of the year, I'm going to get a gym membership next year. And they actually go and do it. But the unhealthy eating practices begin with Thanksgiving because there's so much stuff on the table. And you're tempted to at least try everything that is there. and then right after that, you begin to think about Christmas, and every store you go to, there's something new that is enticing. And the way it's done, like now, all what I like is the butter cookies in the can,
Butter cookies in the can.
I go to Costco and get the one that is like 5 layers.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then I always pick up the eggnog or a jug of milk.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So I'm one of those guys who dips those cookies in.
Eggnog? Oh, my God.
I didn't think about that. Shit sounds good.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like it was just out of experiment.
Is that your biggest temptation, the eggnog and the cookies?
The cookies, yeah.
That's a lot
Every
of
time I
people,
see it,
yeah.
and those cookies, I can eat like maybe 1 or 2 of those by myself within a week. So it's not really healthy. That increases your cholesterol level.
Have you ever eaten a whole package of cookies?
Well, I attempted to, but I think the sugar gave me whiplash or something. I got dizzy. So, as soon as I get to that point of consuming too much sugar, boy, something goes ding, ding, ding. I start getting a little dizzy. My head starts sweating and all that.
Yeah.
I know it's the time to cut it off.
You know what I hate also, though, is like the holiday cooking. For some reason, a lot of these recipes are always so soft and mushy. It's like pretty soon you just look around down and you just have a plate full of soft baby food, right? It's mashed potatoes, it's the squash, even like the green bean casserole. When you look at everything's like casserole and mushy, and I really sometimes just long for a crunchy salad or like beans that are just crisp rather than all this.
Feels
baby
like
food.
it is protein and carbohydrates presented in a form that you will not regularly think of it as.
Right.
Yes.
Like sweet potato pie.
Yeah.
That is all carbohydrates and sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then you have the turkey or the ham. That is protein and salt. A lot of people don't realize like the ham carries a lot of salt, and most of us, we don't care to drink water, a lot of water after we've eaten all that. But we have all this salt and sugar intake, and we're not flushing our bodies.
Right, we'll drink that cider.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
cider. I look like champagne. Y'all know that
Or
one?
the
But that's
NEC
a bottle of sugar there, boy.
Yeah.
Pour me some more sugar than that. And I watched fun one time, the wedding parties we was at, she brought a couple bottles of that shit, and she made sure she drank it all by herself. So, what you like about that
Why are
cider?
you telling on me like that?
Well, I seen you. I saw you over
I
there.
saw you too.
Carrying
I saw
bottle.
you do stuff.
But you see me with the protein and the carb,
I mean, that's a cheap form of bubbly. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the sparkling cider, when you open it, you hear that.
It's just festive.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
festive.
festive. You mean it's a
But
festive
I
bottle of
know
sugar.
that some people, like in my friend circle and stuff, and certainly when we were growing up as kids, we would eat, but then it was out. I grew up in Iowa, so in the wintertime it was out the door, and we had a tractor and an old car hood, right? We took a car hood off, and we would go be carrying around going what would you call it, sledding, right? We were being pulled by a tractor and stuff. But I mean, that took a lot of effort and energy and things like that. And I know some people's, there's tradition before Thanksgiving or before Christmas and stuff to play football. And, speaking of football, right? I don't know why I got out of that trend, but that's something I would like to make a New Year's resolution about is like, if you're going to like partake, then at least partake in healthy activities too, right? Where we're getting out and we're doing something physical before we're, sitting at the table.
Oh, that is kind of interesting when you put it that way. Yeah, because Turkey Day was always Turkey Day, and didn't have nothing to do with turkey.
But there's always football on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's always some kind of activity headed to the stadium. Oh, they're trying to get back home. Hell, and even if you got some turkey that day, you was lucky because you was so actively doing something. I remember that. I mean, since I can remember from Pop Warner right on up to the pros, the idea was every Turkey Day football was somewhere in the game. I mean, on the table. You started that morning with a prep somewhere, but it was lucky if you got a turkey leg or if you got a chance to sit down and eat turkey. The older we got, and even in college, it was the same way. And in high school, that's funny too because Turkey Day was everybody in the community, in the neighborhood, the fellas coming together, playing that game out there in the mud, hanging out, doing that, and then trying to find some place to go eat some turkey. But it was kind of even more funny because when you did get a chance to eat some turkey, you had to go to all these many people's houses. It wasn't like just one turkey place, you had to go and see your partner. You come by the house, you eat turkey there, you go to the house, go back home, you eat turkey there, all that tryptophan, and before you know it, you laying down sleeping on the couch somewhere laid out, because they ate stuffing and turkey by the end of the day. But you're right, Fawn. I think that it's important that we recognize that the older we get, the less activity we do on these holidays, and the more food consumption we have. And I thought the other part was kind of interesting too, was watching how people and what people cook on these days. And if they are really cooking a balanced meal. And I remember struggling in the last Thanksgiving and cooking a meal. I began to recognize that between the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, the sweet potatoes, the corn, the all of the types of carbohydrates that associated with this turkey. I mean, it was just, and then it was almost like you never really see, at least at my table, the last thought I would be having is how do I put a salad with all this stuff on the table? And salad seemed to don't never make it to the table. Anything green, don't do. But everything like that is carb oriented is sitting at the table.
We make a lot. We make too much. Like Ron, you said, like you want to try everything. It's like everybody's bringing their favorite. And you got 10 dishes when you should probably have 3, right?
So I feel like we should, like when it comes to times like that, we should be conscious about what we create to present, as, during festivities. Because if you're going to eat sweet potato pie and turkey, you've already covered the protein and the carbohydrates. Now you have to think about something like asparagus or broccoli, something with fiber that helps your body. And during Thanksgiving also, I noticed that most of the food doesn't carry stuff that allows for your body metabolism to go up, like peppers, like cayenne pepper and stuff like black pepper, it triggers your metabolism. So but when you look at the way those foods are prepared, they are almost prepared with just salt and sugar for the most part.
Yeah, but let's talk a little bit about what was the traditional meals, and what do you guys believe is the transition? I mean, because it's not like as if we didn't eat healthy a little bit as growing up. I mean, my family coming from the South, I mean, there was a pattern of eating that I still remembered. I mean, in the morning we'd start the day out, and like when we got a little, as we were younger kids at the house, cereal and all that stuff was a way of starting the day, which wasn't what my grandparents did. When I was in the South living with my grandparents, they would wake up every morning and put together a breakfast that was pretty consistent. It would have grits, it would probably be a piece of toast, some kind of a protein with egg, okay? And that would be every morning to some degree at the table, that type of thing. But my grandparents would never put a bowl of cereal in front of me. That gave me a bowl of sugar that I could put over the cereal. Over the cereal. They would have never done that. But at home, growing up with 7 sisters and brothers, my mom struggled trying to get us all something to eat in the morning or whatever. So a big bag of cereal on the table with a gallon of milk and some bowls was a natural way we got out the dough. And if it was anything hot, we probably might have got it at the school. So y'all talk to me. What do you think the transition? What is it, a societal transition that we've been forced into a mode of eating and conducting ourselves this way? Or is it our parents adapting to convenience? What do y'all think this is all about?
I can say from just my perspective, like when I went to visit my grandpa in Louisiana, that was the food I had for breakfast every morning too. It was grits, sausage, and eggs and a biscuit. And
well, they all took it from the same playbook,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, hey.
And then I wasn't really thinking about what is each food, what does it do for my body? I was like, oh, this tastes good, I'm gonna eat it. No questions asked. But then as I got older, I became more conscious of what I was putting in my body. So living by myself and taking care of myself, I just started paying more attention to okay, what am I eating, and what are the things my body needs that I'm not giving it. And the big thing for me was vegetables. So when I make eggs now, I always cut up bell pepper, or maybe I'll put some zucchini in it, some spinach in it, some onions, stuff like that. So making small changes or just adding things to the recipes that I used to eat has been really helpful. And that's something that I'm I look at what I ate when I was a kid, and I'm like, okay, I know that the stuff I ate as a kid isn't the best thing to eat, and I know how to improve it. So I'm like, okay, when I build my family, I should be able to show my kids and give them the proper nutrition they need. So I think it's just being aware of what you're putting in your body, how you're brought up and what you're eating, and then making the adjustment from there, and doing whatever research you need to do, so this is what I'm missing and stuff.
I'm going to give you another take on that.
Okay.
And it almost sound controversial, but look at it this way. Everything you mentioned for your breakfast organically is good. Okay? Take a look at the statistics right now. They talk about high blood pressure, diabetes. More black people are affected by those diseases than everywhere else. But let's go back to when we were younger in America. The cereal that were sold in the main store where those who were rich could afford were not the same as the cereal that were sold in the corner store where the black people lived.
Exactly.
They even had different names, but they looked the same. Because those were experimental stuff that eventually the white people didn't want to eat, and it was already produced, so they sent it to the area where those who couldn't afford to buy the premium stuff will buy it.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And then, so over the years, Black people ate that stuff and then they became affected by it. And some of this stuff is genetic now because it gets transferred, because it's now within your genetic line. Another thing we have to look at, we have a lot of preservatives in food. Okay? When they mass produce this stuff, they use preservatives to keep them in cans and stuff like that. But what happens? When it doesn't get sold, they send it to the neighborhood that can't afford much. So you find them in the dollar stores, in the corner stores, in the liquidation stores. Because for us, we can go and buy a corned beef, which is like 80% maybe, I'm just salt, okay? But we'll eat it because we can afford it.
Right.
But we didn't, because of our situation, we didn't think about it as not being healthy, because we were just eating to live.
Right.
Right.
Well, you make a really good point, Ron. I mean, so, wow. I mean, as much as we want to knock on what we're doing today in this consumption, we fail to want to look at the historical relevance of how we arrived here. Which
I mean, it's expensive to eat healthy.
Oh, yes.
Really is what it is. Like the whole foods, the whole paycheck. We talked about this yesterday. There was this grandmother and her big family, and she said, "I'm charging $45 a head for this Christmas dinner because the cost of food has just gotten so outrageous, and that's not even the good food, right? As Ron pointed out, even the bad food is more expensive than it used to be."
But we talk about the historical relevance, as Ron was saying. I mean, from the rooter to the tutor, I remember old boy that was selling it, that had the rib joint down there, and he was from Georgia. But the whole idea of slavery, when we think about how the slaves were fed and treated, and that whole historical evolution that our whole eating behaviors and our cultural identity were associated with food, such as the hog, like eating pig ears and pig butt and intestines and the trotters and the hoofs. All these things were fed to us because they, the master his family wasn't eating that. He was eating the ham, the loin and all that stuff, but he was throwing the slaves and the people who were working the farms and in these plantations, all these parts that he wouldn't eat. And over the years, like the collard green, for example, nobody realized that the collard green itself, the same link of the collard green itself is a pattern of leaf that is cultivated in different parts of the world that has a part of that family, the collard green. But the collard green in America was one of the toughest leaf plants that anyone could consume. It was high in iron, it had high in vitamin A and all that. But if you knew what you had to do with a green to eat it, and I don't know about y'all, but when I cook a green, I don't cook a green for like 15 minutes. I had to cook that damn green like I'm hitting it with a hammer for 2 hours, bowling on football. But then with my parents would always throw a ham hock in them. Okay, so it was like natural to have some kind of pork fat in this green, right? So I don't know if I was knocking out the value of the green by putting all that fat in it, but
But you see, there's the fun part about it is like the collard green is just like a kale. Kale is hard to cook too, but it carries a lot of ingredient that is really good for your body. But when you look at the kidney and the liver and the heart, they carry a lot of good nutrients in them.
Of the animal or for ourselves?
Of the animal when you eat it. So what these people didn't realize was that the food that they were giving the slaves actually made the slaves stronger and healthier.
Really?
And then they figured out, well, you see, they threw them the stuff that they didn't think they could make anything out of. And they made it so good that even the master every now and then wants to come and have some.
Come on over here and cook me some of this. Ass tutor, trotter, and all that stuff.
But I mean, it's mostly protein. I mean, if you look at the ingredients in the chicken, in the gizzard, we call it gillets. I mean, say for example, when somebody's sick and you make a chicken gizzard soup, the liquid, the broth from it alone revives your body because of all that nutrients that comes from it.
Yeah.
The gizzard is stronger, some people say, for sick people like with the flu than just the chicken soup itself. Because
Right. Wow. But how many of us would know anything about a gizzard? When I look at somebody like Jarrell, right, at this age of his life, a young man coming down the college, boy, would you know anything about a gizzard or a heart of a, have you ever taken the heart of a cow or a heart of a goat or anything like that and tried to cook it and eat it?
No, I've never had a reason to do that.
Oh.
But those are the most healthiest parts of the animal. Did you know that?
The heart is?
The heart, the gizzard, all those things. They carry the higher, sometimes the higher amount of nutrition in them.
It's so funny. And there was definitely lots of feed, but it was pretty disgusting.
Oh yeah, these transitions need to be a little smoother. Is that what you're saying? No. Well, this is a smooth transition. Listen, we got to take a little pause for the cause here. We have an expert coming in here to talk to us a little bit more about some of this health and wellness. I do appreciate chopping it up with my posse here about some of these topics because it's really interesting to get different perspectives. But we get our professional, our expert coming in, and we're going to take a 5-minute break right now to bring her in. And when we come back, she'll be at the table. So stay tuned, y'all. Good afternoon, folks. We are finally back on this exciting episode of the Black Beat Podcast. And today, we're kind of excited to have our guest, And as you all know, hi, I'm John Washington. I'm the editor-in-chief of Flossin Media, and I am your host for Black Beat Podcast in this episode. And today's guest is a natural health coach at Natural Grocers, Karen Nickerson. A born and bred Oregonian with a passion for healthy living and having fun. And that part I like. We're going to talk a little bit more about this have fun part.
Exactly.
Okay? And Karen Nickerson has a Master's of Science in Nutrition from the National University of Natural Medicine and a Bachelor's of Arts in Environmental Studies from the University of Redlands, which is where her interest in connecting between human health and environmental health was first ignited. Karen has over a decade of teaching and coaching experience and loves empowering others to make positive life change. With the right kind of education and support, Karen believes that anyone can begin their journey to optimal health and wellness. Welcome, Karen. It is my honor to have you in the house today.
Awesome. Thanks,
Okay?
John.
And so we're going to ask you to talk a little bit about, all right? But it come about eventually. Karen, tell us a little bit about yourself, girlfriend. How you got here? Talk to us. What you all about?
Yeah. Well,
Bring us to today.
okay.
You know?
Will do. Thank you for having me. So I'm a born and bred Oregonian, born and raised here in Portland, grew up in Northeast. I always kind of had a focus on health and wellness. I was an athlete from childhood up through played high school sports, college sports. I still play sports today.
What was you, a runner?
I played
Jumper?
lacrosse and soccer.
Oh, girls.
Yeah, and I ran
you
track.
Contact kind of person.
Yeah, watch
girl,
out.
that's a long heart. You like fun, huh?
Right? Exactly. Got to have a good time.
You and Florence, you get along real well, Contact people.
Exactly. I ran a little track in middle school too, stuff like that. I'm a runner. So, in order to be an athlete, you got to put the right fuel in your body, right? So I definitely, am lucky to have parents that had an emphasis on, healthy eating in the home, 3 square meals a day, fruits, vegetables, stuff like that. As much as I was a teenager that wanted to eat junk food just like everybody else, that really kind of paved the way for the, foundation of my health and wellness moving forward. So I think, being an athlete and then, of course, growing up in a semi-healthy home and then also having my own health challenges throughout the years is kind of what brought me into my career today.
Wow. So you had a few health challenges. I guess as we all, sometimes that does ignite our pathway, huh? The challenges.
Yeah.
Right? So what's healthy eating? What characterizes healthy? What when you say healthy, what are we really saying?
Well, that's a great question, and I know a lot of people have their own definition of what's healthy, what's not healthy. I don't never like to categorize foods as good or bad, but if you think about what the CDC tells you to eat, fruits, vegetables, they tell us to eat 5 to 7 fruits or vegetables per day, 2 to 3 fruits. Like 90% of Americans are not getting the optimal amount of fruits and vegetables per day. So if you want to quote unquote eat healthy, you could just start by eating more vegetables. And
we was just talking about that, huh?
We were.
About
We were
how we
talking
start out about trying to eat. What's eating healthy, right? Rounded. When you decide you want to pick up some food, but it was kind of fascinating because we were looking at it from a cultural standpoint, a historical cultural standpoint. And, because when we thought about how we as Black people, we consume, right, from slavery, when we started some of our traditional eating behaviors, how we were fed these parts of the animal that were not normally healthy. But, we, Dr. Ron, one of our other partners that sit at the table right here, Ron was sharing with us about, but what they didn't know, those plantation owners, when they was throwing us livers and gizzards and all that, that was the more healthier part of the animal to be
it's true, yeah. The liver is full of B vitamins, vitamin A. It's actually, a lot of doctors, like naturopathic doctors, are saying, go back to eating organ meats. We were actually supposed to have these in our diet, but it's not what you get when you go, to the burger joint. You're getting the meat of the animal, but actually the organ meats can be really healthy too.
So Karen, what is your perception of how we as a society got to this abnormality in terms of consuming unhealthy foods, and what's your perception of how we got here today? I mean, because we were talking about the difference, even Jarrell here, we were talking about, because when I go to the South and I go and visit my grandparents and we think about how we eat there versus how we eat at the house in Patterson in the projects, right? Like when we go to grandma's house, we eat grits and eggs and a piece of sausage and some toast in the morning, every morning. It didn't matter. You get up, grandma had that stuff piping ready to go. You had started the day with her. But at the crib, Mom, with 7 sisters and brothers in the project, if Mom had to go to work, a bag of cereal and some milk was on the table. And usually it was the most sweetest cereal we can find. So tell us a little bit about how do you believe as a trend or as a society, how we evolved ourselves to this place that we're at today?
Well, that is a great question. And, I hate to harp on corporate America, but, the foods that we eat today, like 60% of the American diet is processed foods, right? Wow. So things that you're going to find in a bag or a box or, a can, or that's been manipulated and has all these ingredients that you really can't even pronounce in them. And we really shifted away from whole foods, right? Fruits, vegetables, meats, nuts, seeds, anything that you would be able to forage for back in the day. And so those processed foods have really become a huge part of our diet, and it's really easy to sneak in like extra salt, extra sugar, high doses of sodium, high doses of sugar. Back in the year like 1900, we used to eat about 10 pounds of sugar per person per year. Now, today, it's up to like 150 pounds of sugar per person per year. And they're able to sneak that into your breads, your pastas, your ketchups, everything. Added sugars are just everywhere. And that is really wreaking havoc on our health and wellness as a society. And it's sad because, like you said, people aren't really aware of it. If you're eating in the projects and you're eating boxed cereal and milk, a lot of those places are food deserts. They don't even have access to healthy foods.
That was that word, the food oasis. Yeah, okay.
Exactly. So grandma cooking a nice home-cooked meal, she has the foundation and the knowledge and the education to cook a nice big meal. But, if you're both got 2 working parents that aren't home, what's the quickest, easiest thing? A microwave meal, cereal. It's just convenient because we all work so hard.
A luxury of 2 working parents. You was talking about one?
I'm wondering though, John, because we talked about it earlier. I made the comment, I said it's expensive to eat healthy, but is that true? Is it more expensive to eat healthy?
Sadly, I would say yes, in some ways it is, because those bagged and boxed foods that are made in a, warehouse in a laboratory somewhere. It was designed in a laboratory and then made in a warehouse. It's really easy to, package that and ship it out quickly. have you ever tried to like grow your own vegetables or fruits?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of work and it takes a lot of like care and effort. And then, there's certain growing seasons for
Right.
what's in season, what's not. Then you got to harvest it. Then you got to pack, can it or pickle it or ship it. So getting the whole foods can seem more expensive, but I think on the back end, it's actually more expensive to eat processed food because you're going to end up with potentially disease down the line, and that can get really expensive.
Yeah, good diabetes and yada, 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 high blood pressure and all that, and at the intersection. But just on a lighter note, a positive one, living where we live today, it's been kind of interesting watching over the history, of these farming in city, all those different interesting kinds of nutritional, educational programs that are popping up around in Portland and stuff like that. And, and I think that that's a real, because I found it rather interesting. A lot of our advocates for the Black community and a lot of our radical people, there was this thing where, well, the revolution will not be televised. But when they started talking about the revolution, they go, well, okay, well, what are the things that are required to have a successful revolution, right? Because if you start tearing up shit, you're going to need to be able to figure out how to take care of yourself, right? And so some of the leaders would go, well, how many of y'all grew an ear of corn this month? How many of y'all planted anything? How many of y'all went out fishing and caught a fish? And around a room of 300 people, maybe 2 people might have raised their hand. Well, how many of y'all killed a deer in the last year? Probably one person in the room had 300 raised it. So then he turned around and said, y'all ain't ready for no revolution. Because can't nobody cook or kill nothing. Y'all ain't even going to be able to eat. So you'll be walking around here looking for a hamburger.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to go through a drive-through than it is to,
Go kill something,
get hunting supplies and track deer for sure.
So tell us, where do you see this trend going, and what are you seeing as some changes, and give us some tools to combat where we're headed. Can you redirect us? Is there a possibility of us being redirected as a people in our society around getting healthier, around our nutritional intake and all those things? Where do you see us going, and how do we correct it? If we're heading in the wrong direction, how do we begin to correct the path, and yada, yada, yada?
Yeah, no, that is a great question. And like you said, there are a lot of programs popping up. When I was in grad school, one of the programs I followed, they were actually taking like the Women's Coffee Creek Correctional Facility, and they started planting a garden there. And then the women can, learn how to plant their own food, harvest their own food, cook their own food. And then when they leave and they're back, in society, they have a skill that they can transfer over. So there are a lot of really cool like SNAP programs. A lot of people are on SNAP benefits. You can actually take those to the local Portland farmers markets, and some doctors will even write you a prescription to go to a farmer's market.
Yeah, I was seeing that. Yeah, my brother did that over at one of those clinics. Remember the free
Somebody's
food
writing
chat?
a prescription to go?
Oh yeah, they have actually in some of these clinics they have these food shares and exchanges, and the doctor has to refer you to it. And so when my brother came out of the doctor's office and I was listening, I seen outside while I was parked all these fresh, like a fruit stand. And so I went over to them and I asked him, well, how do you get some of this stuff? And he says, well, if you're a patient at this place, your doctor can write a prescription for you to get a bag of fresh fruits and vegetables once a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really fascinating.
It's a really cool program, and not, part of my job is I do one-on-one health coaching, and I'll tell people, I work with a lot of people that are on a fixed income, if they're retired. And so I tell them, ask your doctor, can they write you a prescription? It's usually like, $25 or something like that you can take to a farmer's market, and it's just like cash.
God.
Yeah, it's
That's
really
crazy.
it's really awesome. I know, and a lot of people don't know about these things.
But I think, like you said, I do think like SNAP benefits, they've started to expand those a little bit too for farmers markets as well, as long as it's not cooked food, which is a little bit weird. But so Natural Grocers has a little bit of a different program than maybe some of the other ones. They actually have you on staff as a nutritionist, right? And so is there a charge for your services, Karen?
No, it's completely free. We offer free one-on-one health coaching sessions. That's what I do. It's a full hour. I go over whole health history. I have my master's degree in nutrition. So, I've had people that have come to me, they've been diagnosed diabetic or pre-diabetic or want to lose weight, want to increase their athletic performance, whatever it is. And I spend a whole hour with them, go over their whole health history, and then I'll recommend diet, lifestyle, and supplements that they can, use and start implementing in their everyday life, to round out their, help them meet their health goals.
That's pretty powerful, man. That's
It
pretty
is. I've
powerful.
actually had a coaching session with Karen.
Oh, really? Is she any good?
Yeah, she is.
No, okay.
And Karen, I'm supposed to do a check-in, but I had sort of this swelling thing going on here, which whatever that it was
The
the now or
HMT,
something. Yes, it's helped. I don't have that pain right now, so something's working over there. And she gave me something from like a bloating thing, right, from this guy. And speaking of Dr. Sebi, he's not Dr. Sebi, but he is from...
He's from Latin America.
America.
And founded this. It's like a horse chestnut tree bark, and it really helps with digestive distress. So, there's a wealth of, resources at your fingertips when you walk in there. And I always say, not everybody goes to the doctor, but anybody can walk into a grocery store. And so it's really awesome that, Natural Grocers offers this to the community for free.
Yeah,
Okay,
you really don't know what you're getting, right? So it's nice to have somebody like Karen really break it down to you.
Okay, well, let's have Karen break it down then to some. Okay, let me throw a scenario.
Break it down, Karen, break it down.
Yeah, we're going to break it down for us. Okay, here we are, 55-year-old, 60-year-old black male, right? At a dangerous intersection of his life, right? Help him out. What do you suggest for black males, 50 to 60, heading in, in the environment in which they are? What would you suggest them to be able to maintain maximum health and standing or survive, being able to live a little bit longer? What do you recommend that they should do to avoid some of those dangerous intersections like diabetes, high blood pressure, the big intersection, the crucial intersection at 55?
Totally. No, that's a great question. And of course, whenever someone asks me one question, I have 5 more back to them. I want to know, okay, what is his diet like? What's he eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner? How much water is he taking? How much sleep is he getting? All those foundational health things. But then, when you walk into a grocery store and you're going to buy something, it's inevitable that you're going to buy something in a box or a package, right? So I tell people, flip it over, look at the nutrition facts panel. The first thing that you want to go to look at is the sugars and added sugars. If that thing has 50 grams of added sugar, put it back on the shelf.
Y'all heard that, right? Sugar, that white sugar. Is there any kind of sugar that is acceptable sugar?
Well, so there are different kinds of sugar. Honey, molasses is the most nutrient-dense sugar, but it's also in how you consume the sugar. So if you have a breakfast that's just a glass of orange juice and a piece of toast, that's a lot of carbohydrates, right? That's going to break down into glucose and go straight into your bloodstream. But if you pair that with some fat, fiber, and protein, it helps slow the absorption of the glucose into your bloodstream. So it's really not just what you eat in it, it's how you eat it. So instead of just a white piece of toast, maybe choose a whole grain option and put some peanut butter on there or something to help slow down that absorption of glucose into the bloodstream.
Wow. Come on, Jarrell. I know you're young. I've been bridged this gap between the young and the old.
Oh, yeah, I have questions.
Oh, yeah, he got questions. I don't
turn.
blame you. Yeah, go ahead.
So,
your turn is here.
My first one is kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, how you grew up with your family, what you're eating with your family, and then those, what you eat, that kind of carries on with you, what are some ways or some things you tell people trying to change your habits, because it's really easy to go back to what you used to eat and stuff like that. So I just want to hear what your thoughts are how you coach people on that.
That is a great question. And honestly, habit change is the most difficult part of my job. I will work with certain people and it's did you try this thing I suggested last time? And I put it on the recommendation sheet again this month. And it, educating people and showing them, teaching them about their blood sugar, teaching them about, optimal nutrition, like getting that fiber, fat, and protein at every meal, and just kind of reinforcing those things and repeating yourself over and over will help them realize, like, okay, that's right, you said that last time, I'm really going to try to do it. I tell people, write stuff down. Like, you're 40% more likely to do something that you actually write down. Like, make a SMART goal for yourself, or make a grocery shopping list before you go into the grocery store. Don't just be starving and like grab everything you see.
Yeah, that's my thing.
You know, like,
don't go to the grocery
hungry.
store hungry.
No, bad idea.
Yeah.
So that's, helping to get people to see like their why. Like, why do you want to form this new habit? What's the benefit to you? And John, you were talking about, a 50, 60-year-old man. It's like, you not only do you want to live a long lifespan, but you want to live a long health span. No point to live into 80 if you feel like garbage from 60 to 80, So it's like, it's also about your health span. And so like, once people realize like, oh, I can actually like feel better, and they're more willing to like make those habitual changes.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of people share with me, I mean, I don't usually date myself, but a lot of people are constantly always saying, you seem to be getting younger, and a lot of reasons I attribute a lot of that is because I'm out and about, I mean, I don't just stick to an environment that I believe that's counterproductive to what I want to do, so I'm usually in the woods, I'm on the river, fishing, hunting, all those kinds of things, but not just that, but making sure that the food that I consume is just not something that I get from a processed place. I'm one of those types of guys that in case some major changes have to happen, I would know how to go out and hunt something. I would know how to go out and plant something and catch something. So, because I do that on a regular basis anyway. So it's a lifestyle, definitely a lifestyle change that needs to happen from someone who is an urban dweller to someone that needs to understand that they got to unpack some of those things in these urban communities in order for them to survive and be healthy in them. Because I think the trend is always to promote some kind of unhealthy value within that construct of the inner cities and the shortest way to get to where you want to go. Try this, it's instantaneous, those kinds of things. It ain't nothing as an instant result of anything. I mean, as athletes, we know we trained all our lives. I mean, I can't remember a day in 20 years that I didn't do 100 push-ups or 100 sit-ups a night, So it's kind of like, it's important that we stay after it again. But if you were to give a message, if you were to have a platform and a mic, and someone was to say to you, tell the world what you really want to tell them about this topic, and what would you like them to know? What would that be? I mean, what would you say to them?
Oh, that is a great question. I really think that people should really kind of have a little bit more self-care. A lot of us just do things that...
Take care of yourself.
Yeah. More self-care, get more sleep, drink more water, be out, like you said, in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Being in community is really important. And then, diet is huge. You really can't outrun a bad diet. And so really focusing on...
You can't outrun a bad diet.
You really can't. So, really trying to focus. That's what another reason I love where I work. We focus, we have 100% organic produce. When you walk in the door, you don't have to decide like what's organic, what's conventional, because conventional foods are grown with more pesticides and herbicides, fungicides. That's getting into our environment, causing problems in the environment. So looking at your food, reading the food labels, really caring about what you put in your body, even what you consume from media, online, all of those things, affect your overall health and wellness. So taking more time out during the day, for yourself, I think, and for everybody, we could all use a little more self-care.
So if you're listening to murder and news,
oh God,
right, does that a direct correlation to eating Cheetos?
No, it's just toughening you up for what potentially may be coming.
The more murder shows you listen to, the more cookies you eat. Is there some kind of study about that?
I would like to see it if there is. I haven't seen it, but I mean, it's easy to consume.
Or depression. Well, what about depression?
There's a new research actually coming out about. There's a really great book called "This Is Your Brain on Food," and it's a psychiatrist that is basically kind of a nutritionist too, and she takes her clients or patients and puts them on kind of a new diet protocol. So certain foods that are higher in certain nutrients that will help, brain health, for example, if it's depression you're dealing with or bipolar, et cetera. And she focuses in on using specific nutrients to help with mental health, because I think we all have seen that mental health issues are growing in our society nationwide, and it's really pretty sad. And if you also look that we're also eating 60% of our diet is processed food, and my mind, like a light bulb goes up. It's like, well, what if we just went back to eating like more whole foods? Would kids have as much ADHD and all these, if they're not consuming all these.
There has to be a direct correlation when you think about the advent of fast food and the increase in mental health disorders and things. There has to be some kind of study and research that's gone on about that, because if you remember back in the day, there was always some kind of something going on at McDonald's where somebody came in, they hurt somebody or whatever. And those conversations were always that the question of rather not fast food was really beginning to somehow influence mental health in our society. And so it was kind of, but I wanted to also go back to another thing, and that was, as I'm listening to you talk, Karen, the question was always the benefit. What was the benefit of this store coming into our neighborhood, right? The store in which you work with, Natural Foods. And
Natural Grocers.
Natural Grocers,
MLK,
right, on MLK. And the question was, well, should we have a WinCo or something where, because we kept thinking about at that time of the issue of rather not, could we, it was the type of food stores that we had in here, the people in the terms of the annual household incomes, things like that, was that store or any other store, Trader Joe's, anybody else, a healthy choice for us in this neighborhood in light of trying to feed people. But now when I look back at it, and I'm looking at it right now, I think what you guys bring to the community was something that was also needed, okay? And that was that ability to begin to educate our community on what was healthy versus what wasn't. And I think that was a really good step in a good direction. And so that, and being a historian and someone here from the beginning of all these things, and being a part of these things in their transition, those were some of the thoughts we had during that time. And now that we're looking at it, we're seeing people like yourself, Karen, that are in here that really, a person who is not healthy or not conscious about getting to a healthy place can basically move into a situation, walk into a situation like this and get educated. And that was part of the plus that we saw. That was a real opportunity that we're hoping that we can continue to take
Are you going
advantage
to do
of.
a session with Karen?
Am I going to do a session with her? Yeah, I mean, but she might seem like she's a hard trainer, and I run from hard trainers. I might,
Hey, I like to meet with a client where they're at,
Yeah,
non-judgmental approach.
Yeah, well, you gotta come on up the hill, babe, because I'm already up on top of it. Come on with it, Fawn.
Well, that's nice because it's free. Anybody, as you said, you can just contact the store, right, Karen? And
And
schedule a time with you and.
right, and the best way to get a hold of me is via email. But then we're also bringing back classes. Of course, the pandemic has affected like every business, and we were not doing classes, but we're opening those back up. So we're having at the end of January, we have this 3-week series. It's called 21 Days to a Healthier You, and it every week focuses on something different. The first week is like eating to the healthy meal wheel and learning more about regenerative agriculture and food. The second week is about kicking sugar cravings. So you guys can all attend that.
Yeah, the holiday blues, you know what I'm saying? It's connected.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, Karen, online, people search a lot of things, right? So, is there any correct way of going about looking at healthy nutrition and all that? What do you think is a healthier online version of what you're talking about? Are people looking at this the right way online? Is there a healthy somebody that you can look at more so than somebody not, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. There are a lot of like influencers out there that a lot of them are just trying to sell whatever, product they're being paid by. So I do think it's important to look for people that are credentialed, bachelor's, master's, certified health coach, doctors, NDs or MDs. We also have like a huge book section over at Natural Grocers, and any of the books we sell, we believe in the people that are writing this material and putting it out into the world, PhD candidates, etc. So find people that are releasing things that have, been scientifically peer reviewed and, are from trusted sources, because you just want to be careful. There's a lot of people putting a lot of stuff on the internet, and so you can go down that rabbit hole pretty quickly. So I like to look for people that, are credentialed. And
See there, credentials number one, y'all, but don't be trying to get to nothing, that y'all don't know nothing about, like
I'm
somebody
trying to tell you, it's like
another planet.
cold and flu season, and I had laryngitis 2 weeks ago, and the things that people were telling me to drink and ingest and
That was what
concoct,
you had,
I was
laryngitis?
like,
Sound like some
I'm
other
not gonna
kind.
do
I don't
that.
know what it was, but it sounded like it lasted a long time. I know that.
What about like what I've seen a lot on like social media with influencers is like they'll start out and they'll put out what I can't like confirm, but what looks like pure content, and it's like, oh, like you can tell they're doing the research and stuff, and then they get to a point and now they're getting sponsored by these companies and stuff that they're just trying to sell their product and stuff, even if their product probably isn't the best health wise or nutrition wise, but they're doing because it's like they're trying to make money and stuff like that. So like, when I see that stuff, I immediately feel like, oh, this is trustworthy because this person's always doing this trustworthy stuff, even though now this thing here is an ad or whatever.
Right. Yeah, they do have to make a living too. I definitely follow a few, health and wellness people, and I usually stick with folks that say that they use that product. Like, I actually use this myself, and that's why we're promoting it here on the show. I like recipe bloggers online, and ads for Walgreens or Walmart or whatever will pop up, and I like to, for the influencers that are like getting paid, as long as it's something that they stand behind and a product they believe in, because we are a consumer driven society, and
Yes, ma'am.
people got to make money.
Especially my demographic.
Yeah.
We buy whatever you're selling us. So tell me, Karen, so just as we sort of wind this down a little bit, but here we are in the holidays, okay? And the holidays have a special kind of signature for people. Everybody got a little bit of unique history, traits, and so forth and so on. Their milieus all look a little bit different, but yet, to some degree, we all experience something similar in this environment. What do you think are some healthy suggestions for people around the holidays to take care of themselves and to begin to somehow maintain some type of healthiness through this time into the first of the year, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think, the holidays are a crazy time. They can be a fun time. It's a great time to be in community, be with friends, family, loved ones, which I think that has its own health benefits. But I tell people, around the holidays, like, make sure you're still like drinking a lot of water. I think winter hits, here in Portland, it's cold, it's rainy, it's not 90 degrees out, we're not sweating and hot and thirsty, so people will literally forget to stay hydrated. So I say, drink water, think about your portion size, when you sit down for a meal. A lot of people kind of overindulge in their portion sizes because they're like, oh, it's a holiday, it's this, it's that. And I'm all about, balance and having a good time. So, if you overindulge a little bit, there are also like supplements that can help you. Berberine helps with glucose support. Milk thistle helps with liver health if you're going out a lot and having drinks with friends, stuff like that. And then, just making sure that on those meals, maybe you're not sharing with everybody. Maybe you make a little healthier choice, make sure to include more vegetables, more fruits, stuff like that, so that you're having a little more balance. Because, life is short and you got to have a good time. But
Yeah. And Karen, I really appreciate that info. And for those of you who are listening, I think y'all need to take heed. Because, you only get a few of these, in a lifetime. And, so you want to be able to last the time in this span. But, is there any other kind of burning desires y'all got to ask Karen while we got her here? Anybody in the room want to ask a question about a question about a question? If not.
I have one really specific question that I think it was last night I was watching this video, and it was this guy talking about like the difference between eating like a fruit when it's whole versus eating a fruit when it's like blended as a smoothie. And like there's like this, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like kind of like a point scale for like how healthy it is, and it was like if you just eat like a banana whole, like it's okay because like when you blend it, like then like all like the nutrients gets all messed up, and then like the sugars inside it are all like they're all coming out all of a sudden and stuff like that. So I wanted to hear if you knew about that.
Yeah, so I mean, eating food in a whole food form is always going to be, I would say, quote unquote, healthier. Like if you know, how many oranges would you be able to sit down and eat if you were going to eat oranges? Probably one, maybe two, right? But if you drink a glass of orange juice, you can be drinking up to like 20 oranges in a single glass of juice, and you're not getting any of the fiber. You're just getting the straight up sugar, the glucose, basically. So, you know, eating in the whole food form, you're getting fiber along with that. You're getting all other vitamins, minerals, nutrients. If you blend things up in a smoothie, you do make those sugars like more easily accessible for your body, because your body doesn't have to go through that digestion process. The blending kind of does the digestion for you a little bit. So I always encourage people, if you're going to do like a smoothie, you know, this is my plug for fat, fiber, and protein. Like, make sure you have some fiber in there. Make sure you have a healthy fat, maybe some coconut milk or regular milk or peanut butter or something like that. And then other fibrous like vegetables, maybe some spinach, something you can hide in there. Because you're right, once you blend it up, it's, you know, you could you can't eat a banana in 4 seconds, but you might be able to slam that smoothie, and then all of a sudden there's all just sugar in your belly.
Yeah, I know, but don't ever try to slam a banana and be a diabetic.
Right, there's a lot of
put you
sugar.
through the roof. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I remember one time where I don't know, something happened. Got up one morning. I knew that the night before, I think I had a birthday cake or something the night before. I went to bed eating it or whatever. And then for some odd reason, I woke up that morning, I was hungry, and I ate a banana. And it just like took that sugar and spiked it, boy, so I was sweating out of the top of my head. I kept thinking I was going to die, right? So I go outside, because I was in my house by myself, right? So I go outside my house, because if I'm going to die, I'm going to die outside so somebody can see me, right? But my head was sweating. I couldn't believe how much sugar that a banana can take you up over the top on. So, but so, hey, look, folks, this was something else. And, you know, Ms. Nickerson came in and rocked our world a little bit about this information. For y'all who ain't listening, you better pick this one up and start listening. And for those of you who want to contact this woman and get her support and her help in terms of setting you straight and some things on some clarity around nutrition and some healthy forms of living, y'all need to go up to Natural Grocers and contact Karen and see what she can help y'all with. And I strongly suggest y'all get a hold of her that way. But Karen, tell us a little bit, is there any kind of websites, pages, or anything that people can come to directly to be able to contact you?
Yeah, so in the store we have posters, but naturalgrocers.com, and then you can click on, you know, find a health coach and scroll down to the Portland MLK location. We have locations in Vancouver, Tigard, Gresham, Southeast Portland. So if you want to find me specifically, go to the MLK location. And there's a way to sign up for health coaching sessions. Or you can always just email me directly. That's NHC, like nutritional health coach.mk, like MLK.
Say it again, Karen, one more time.
NHC.mk@naturalgrocers.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me. You can also always call the store. Do I know the phone number off the top of my head? 503-528-9884, I believe. And so yeah, you know, we're here to be a resource. That was one of our founding principles, is to support community and nutrition education. And that's what I get to do every day with my job. So I love it. And I'm here for you guys as a resource.
Welcome to Black Beach, y'all. This is what it's all about. We ain't trying to bury the truth. We trying to bring it to you live and in living color. So y'all stay up with the tunes, and we're going to be back at you with the next episode. And I appreciate y'all coming out and supporting us. And y'all have a great afternoon. Thank you.